Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing this morning? Hope everyone's having a happy Friday morning so far. Let's see. Good morning, Sterling. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, Mark. Happy Friday to you. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, Yogi. Good morning, Ted. Good morning, Daniel. So, let's see. What else we got? We got some earning XPEV was a beat stock down 3.08%. FedEx beat stock up 7.62. They also said they'd probably beat their guidance. Big jump there. Also decent beat in EPS. So, what else? Mike, can you take a look at XPEV to see if the weekly and monthly potential double top is valid or too sloppy? Just remind me closer to the end. Good morning, Charles. Also, time for everybody to watch Apple. Is getting close to the trigger point of the massive weekly double that would take it back to the weekly 200 area. So we'll have to see if that does trigger or not. We'll have to see if that does trigger or not. Let me see also. Ah, boy, got a fly coming in here. Like the tea this morning. Oh, we got another. I wear these all year round, but you can't see them when I'm wearing my sweat jacket. You can't see the tie dyes when I'm wearing a sweat jacket, which normally it's cold enough until the summer, but not anymore. Not anymore. 105 yesterday, 106 today. If it hits 106 today, it will be the first time that Phoenix has ever hit 106 before May. So that says something. Good morning, Balashi. All right. Today, rig counts. That's it. So everything's headline driven today. Let's just refresh this. Well, there's your FedEx right there. Oh, it's only up 6.57% now. And you also, there's AutoZone. AutoZone's a little bright spot. Dell, look at that. Dell up 4.24. I wonder what's going on with Dell. Other than that, mega caps all down. Mega caps all down. Market oil is still chugging along, even though slight pullback in crude, not much. So that's where it says pretty mixed market going in the open. Energy and consumer defensive and basic materials are the other thing is up. Oh, industrials too, but barely. Technology, com services, and financials leading the way down. What did happen there? Huh? There we go. That was weird. Pause. Even though Bowman was on earlier this morning saying she could still see potential 3 rate cuts this year. Come on, Fly, get out of here. Fly's celebrating Friday. Sitting on my coffee mug, which is filled with tea. Super matcha green tea. Uh, Pretty much a pause priced in off. It doesn't even get iffy until, boy, December, which is still 76%. Fear and greed and extreme fear. Schiller PE. Oh boy, this market's getting really cheap, isn't it, guys and gals? 38.28. What else? Yeah, it says this summer's going to be brutal. If we're already at these temperatures, I'm not looking forward to it because these are temperatures we should see in June. Good morning, Royal Palms. Do your neighbors ever give you that look because you're always in tie dyes? Yeah. My neighbors give me a lot of looks, Sterling. My neighbors give me a lot of looks. So I'm sort of the very interesting one in the neighborhood. How do you read into this after hour and pre market price action? Well, we're going to get to that right now. By the way, Sterling put in, thank you for putting in the earnings. There's really FedEx and XPeng. There's nothing else going on. So we're going to close that sucker out for the week. All right. Well, what happened after we sold off and now we're starting to bounce? against very, very key support area. Let's take a look at the daily again. I mean, we're at a major support area. If this area breaks, do watch out below. We've still, like yesterday, we still got the dip buyers coming in. Dippity dip dips coming in. Now, what do we do? We have the set up a potential double bottom. It's the only thing, and this might not trigger today because there's very key resistance at 66.75 or excuse me, 66.75. Very key support 66.10. Let me put the lines there. There's the 66.75. There's the it's really around 66.10, but again, it's an area, not an exact thing. So, my shirts are out of control. Good morning, Holy Holy. Oh, it's throwing answered. I'm in Arizona, in the Phoenix area. So, yeah, left Chicago, back for the desert. Now my wife's back in Chicago. She moved out here, then got transferred back. So, it's just me in the desert. Just me. 66.10 to 66.75. That's the key support and resistance. If we break below the 66.08, 66.10 level, you can keep an eye on 66.85 area. If that's lost, don't know. That's not normally happens on a Friday unless something major headline comes out. And the headlines are tilted now to trying to reopen the straits, so we'll see about that. But Friday, least favorite trading day of the week, not just because it's Friday or anything, because over 30 something years, it's the lowest for myself. It's the worst odds of any day. It's the worst outcome between winners and losers, especially going into late morning. Not that it's late morning, it's 6:11 here. So, it's the only problem living out here. You got to get up super early. 3:30. Some days earlier than that. 66.92 on a closing basis would trigger the 4-hour rotation zone. Now, this would be for a bounce play only. Possibly back to 66.74. The exact targets are 67.32, 67.52, 67.72. All of them have 0.25 after them, but don't get picky with that. On a daily basis, if this were to bounce, it is against the daily rotation zone. When that happens, I'd prefer if it actually didn't trigger today, because going into next week, the 8 EMA would be out of the way, and then I'd really focus on the first and second targets. By the way, you see here, we start taking out this area. You have the last line of defense is this 65.57 area. And then it could get real interesting. Good morning, Tony. Good morning, Jake. So, the NASDAQ also has a potential double bottom. Would need a 4-hour close above, what is that? 24,691.50. Then we're looking at 24,874, 24,965, 25,056. Key support, yes, we have these two lows right around 24,330, but really it's 24,290 to 24,300 is the key support zone. We lose that, there isn't much until 24K. So, how does this look on the daily? This looks like, again, against the rotation zone, and the top target is right at the 50 EMA. Would have to be aggressive on stop raising on this. Would love to hear what my pre-market prep is like and what or is it? No, I do pre-market prep before the presentation. I go through a lot of overnight news. I go through a lot of charts. I go on lower time frame and look for key stuff. I just summarize it on the higher time frames. I look for underlying risks. I look at stuff that I don't put on the live stream. Because remember, I'm trying to simplify the live stream, not make it more complex. We don't have time for that. The Dow also potential double bottom against the 4-hour rotation zone. 45,566 is the trigger point on a closing basis. 46,830 roughly, 46,960, 47,090 on the daily basis. Again, that would be not, I mean, it goes in the rotation zone, but bounce play. Now, for the bullish case, we are getting potential, unless we have a major sell-off over the next couple of days, we are getting potential divergent setups here. Especially you can see it in the Dow. Lower low in price action, higher low in the RSI. That does not mean a long-term bottom is in. All right? The Dow is coming in. I mean, we have not had the capitulation move yet. We might not get a capitulation move because this could just be a sell-off, then a bounce back into, not necessarily in the Dow, but in the S&P. Look, we haven't broken a critical level. We could remain in consolidation. We could bounce and remain in consolidation for a few more months. The potential risks to the downside have not been resolved, though. NASDAQ, we've not broken critical support. We've not even triggered the double top. So we could easily bounce and remain in this range-bound market for a few more months. So that's why it's always important to look at both sides of the market. Now, I am, because we've not had a decent correction in a while, and for some other reasons, I am leaning more bearish. But if we regain some of this key support, then I'll be in choppy mode. The Russell again, we've not broken the major support level. We're back into a consolidation area that was in October. Gosh darn fly, interrupting my live stream. Back in October. So if you look at this area and the 200, which we tested back in the beginning of March, we're still holding above that. We're down below massive resistance. So we'd really have to gain 2580 area to get back into choppy mode for me. But other than that, there is no double on the Russell. Very key support, 2470, 2471 area, resistance 2539, 2540. The VIX coming back, I mean, a little up this morning. They rallied up yesterday and then dropped with the rally in the afternoon. Still holding a very high level. Key is 2150 roughly to really start getting into more of a rally mode. Today, I'm looking at 2350 for breaking down. An intraday trade below gets interesting for me, but it's got to follow through with a close because we still have the dip buyers in force. So, if it's traded intraday if we break through to levels with momentum, then it's like, okay, I can do short-term momentum plays, especially on not a Friday. On not a Friday, because a lot of people cover positions. They're also their swing positions going into Friday afternoons. But throughout Monday through Thursday, let's say we were to take out some of these key support levels with momentum, they're tradable. But if we don't follow through, not holding. If we don't follow through, like if we do what we did yesterday, like here's the afternoon. Okay, right here, if we do this snapback, it backed off a bit, but if we do this snapback, it's not holding. Yeah, I would not be holding it. Just sort of like we talk about percent B buys, if they break the prior day's high, but they don't follow through to the close, it's a no hold. So if we break down key support levels, but we snap back and we don't close below those levels, it's a no hold for me. The DAX is just a mess. Now, what's interesting in the DAX is we did break below a first level support, but second level support, we did close below it on Thursday, but then snap back above it. The critical area is 23K to really start hitting the DAX. Again, we even have this is breaking down even more and more. I would not be surprised to see rallies back into the rotation zone on any good news. But it's a lot of these markets have some heavy lifting to do besides bounce plays only. The yields climbing back up. Look at this. Backing off a little yesterday. No closing above that 4.3 area yet, but today running up there. Today running up there, and is this valid? I don't think it is. Let's see. Yo, right there. Yeah, it's technically a valid double top, potential double top. But I am still looking for higher yields. Very dovish comments from Bowman this morning. 3 cuts? Citing unemployment. Well, what about friggin' inflation that's nowhere near? It's not below your target yet. Well, these people are, that's what they're focused on. They really don't give a crap about inflation, which affects everyone. 2 years. Big drop down yesterday, about hitting that 3.95 area and climbing again today. Gold, little bounce. Again, we now have hooking over 50, declining rotation zone. Bounce plays, I'm looking for sell setups in the short term. Not in the long term yet. Dr. Where trailing levels are for me. Does that mean you dump all your gold position? No, because it's had a massive run up. But it's definitely taken more potential profits if, on a longer term basis, if the double does trigger. Silver holding this very key support level. What we're going to be looking for on silver is if it starts closing below about 70.35. 70.35. Copper, which also broke, we didn't cover this yesterday, broke below key support. So any bounces back to about 564, looking for sell setups. These have to really regain support before I'm interested at all from the long side. Crude, still holding this 93 area, 92.75 to 93 area. Little weakness earlier, bouncing back. Again, crude's going to be headline driven. So how does a fly get so annoying? Dollar index. This would have had to be traded intraday. It did close below the trigger point after hitting the first target. And this is one I said would not be shorting because the rotation zone's right there. And then if it manages to sell off, you got the 50 right there. And we've had a massive run in the dollar. So this is just a little, we have cycles at the top coming out of overbought. But I'm interested to see today how it closes in relationship to 99. 99 is going to be key. Again, would not be shorting this move, but we might be getting a little short-term shift in the dollar until things heat up again with the war or get resolved. If this gets resolved, we could then see a bigger pullback in the dollar, but I'll still remain in bullish mode. Euro bouncing back to the key resistance level and the rotation zone. By the way, Euro technically triggered a double bottom against the rotation zone. So if that plays out again, if it goes through this first target again, you have right back to the 200. I'll get to these other things. Mike, since the NBER changed the definition of recession during Biden saying there's no recession with the hot labor market, knowing the jobs numbers were wrong, have we been in a recession? I think part of the economy has been. I think also things are getting distorted now by AI and the data center build out, making things look a lot stronger from a GDP perspective than they really are. There's a lot of stuff under the surface that's not good. But they're doing everything they can to hang on to this. Spiders, little reversal yesterday, coming up to fill the gap from Wednesday, then rolling back down to opening around 656.50 on a rally again today, 659.80. Otherwise, I'll be looking at yesterday's lows, 655 area. We start taking out there, we have 652.50. We do the gap fill and keep rising up again. Oh, come on. We have very key resistance right around this level, about 662.50. The Qs, slight gap down today. Fill the gap would be 693.02. We filled the gap already from Wednesday yesterday. So it would be around 595.50 is the next key resistance I'm looking at today. If we roll over, I'm looking at yesterday's reversal open price, 593.02, and then the lows, 587.08. It is just a question of when the music stops. Other than that, what do we have? You have, let me just see. IWM, sorry, I forgot IWM. Let's see if this does hit the 50. Little gap down today, 247.63, and I'm not looking necessarily for that to hit today. Other than that, major resistance at 251. 250. Key support for final target is 241 area. Bitcoin coming back to the trend line again. There technically would be a %B buy above yesterday's high. We'll have to see. Again, if this starts closing below the trend line, this could be over for the bounce play because we're still against the flattening out, though, weekly rotation zone. All right, what did you ask about XLB? Was XLB a classic double top with a trigger at 52 and a secondary move and fail with the targets hit? Was XLB a classic double? This was a double top. This was a double top pattern. I'm just throwing on some targets because it's hit all of them anyways. Yeah, that was a double top pattern completely. And now XLB is against the rotation zone. So yeah, you could have bounce plays, like there could be a %B buy set up today for a bounce play back to the rotation zone. With divergences, interesting, you also have divergences down here. So we could start seeing some bounce plays based off these divergences. The key is if they turn from a bounce play into something more significant. KMI. We look at the longer term. KMI is still very overbought. So far, cycle's declining in a sideways correction. So, yesterday triggering a %B buy. Targets for that for me would be 34. First target to raise a stop at least. And then if it breaks out to the upside, if this holds, looking at about 33.46 to raise another stop than 33.68. I'd be taking something off at that point. At least something off. Because you're still at cycle tops, very overextended in the short term, but so far a sideways correction. From the %B buy, if it closes back below this 32.50 area, would not be holding anything because then we could trigger a much bigger pullback. Closer to the 31.50 area. Again, not investment advice. LEG, there was a potential double at one point on there. Never triggered. LEG, let's just see. From the last run up. Wow, that 62.5 and the 200 was in the same place. You might get bounce plays in this, but the only way I look to be bullish again is above 1075, other than a bounce play. Other than that, because the probability is still shifted to lower prices. We haven't ticked off the 75% harmonic or the 87.5 yet. So I'd still be looking for potential lower prices into this major key support area. Can you take a look, and thank you for reminding me. Weekly and monthly. Let's take a look at the monthly. Yeah, that is valid. It's confirmed. It's just not. Let me check the targets. Before I misspeak, let me check the targets. Oh, I forgot. It's valid on the weekly. It is valid on the monthly. It is not confirmed. It's triggered, but not confirmed. So if we look at the weekly, you can see we have no close below that level. And you actually have a little, is that a valid mini double bottom? No, it's not. So you have a triggered or a confirmed but not triggered double. So that would be a very key area to continue to watch. Would I short something like this? No. Why? This would be looking for pullbacks still here. It'll be too cheap a stock. I do not like shorting stocks that are, I mean, it's just that area I can consider, above, I like to above 20, but once you start getting below 15, especially the first target is right around 10, I really hate shorting those things. Yeah, we could get a bounce on the NASDAQ. Would not be surprised. It's whether that bounce can turn into something more sustainable. Whether that bounce can turn into something more sustainable. Because you also see, let me take this off. Look at all the selling pressure too. You have buying pressure down here, but look at all the selling pressure. How many weeks is this? Even before the war started. Look at all this selling pressure overhead. There's definitely things changing. That's why if we bounce, am I into, we're going to new highs? No. I go back into choppy mode up here. Go into choppy mode. That's what I would be doing. How's the house doing? Still having work done. The flooring's back in. My office is not back put together yet. I'm still in the primary bedroom on a Costco table. Maybe I can get the office set up again this weekend. There's been still too many workmen. Had to have all the cabinets. A lot of the cabinets were redone yesterday from damage, and to have all the quarter round put back in. And then there's still. Then I have to have stuff ripped off on the outside and in the garage. So it's just not in the house at that point, though. So things are progressing, but not done. Thanks for asking, Holy. With that, let's just peek at the open. Let's check. That's the 15-minute, but let's check again. Nothing's invalidated with this double. Really, I can't get overly bearish unless we start breaking that 6610 level today, but that's not even through to close bearish. So nothing's changed with the pre-market analysis. Well, the wife came out here for 2 weeks to help me deal with all this stuff because dealing with all this construction and four dogs was an absolute nightmare. But she's been back in Chicago now for a while. She did come out though. She doesn't want to be in Chicago. She'd rather be out here, but job responsibilities. So, with that, 10-year has jumped and put in a potential double top on the 4 hour. Yep, there's your potential double top on that 4 hour. But we'll see it. I mean, that's not, again, don't get carried away with this because would I be shorting that on the yield basis? No, I wouldn't. Look at all the support it's coming into. I would start looking for pullbacks because unless there's a resolution, and that's not even going to, remember, oil, yes, and other stuff like fertilizer does put upward pressure on a lot of stuff. We're not fully dependent on oil, though. We're not at all dependent on oil through the Strait. That's more a global thing. But fertilizer's big. Fertilizer ripples into food. Okay, and food can have really inflationary stuff because not just for also for cattle feed and everything else. Because you grow food, you grow stuff to grow, to feed cattle. So, we still have, even if oil's resolved and fertilizer's already have you seen what fertilizer prices are doing? They're up huge for farmers. And that just doesn't go away overnight. So separate from oil, you have massive inflationary underlying pressures still, even if the straits reopened. And then you got to keep it open without damage going on. And then everything's got to ramp back up. There will be lingering instability, and you don't just turn on all the shipping again. You don't just turn on all the infrastructure to get things. It takes a while to ramp up. And this is going to have a ripple effect. And I think a lot of people are just focused on the crude aspect. But in Europe, look at the natural gas aspect. Look at the other side. It's going to get very, very interesting. And things could quiet down potentially, but they might not go away. All right. With that, that's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. Well, where's Tesla today? Oh, Tesla. Yesterday was a close. I forgot to go over Tesla. Yesterday was a close below all the key support levels finally. And now looking for the potential bigger breakdown in Tesla. So, no bullish things triggered. Get underlying, you have a lot of key stuff. You have a lot of key stuff like the double only hit the first target in Nvidia. And it's done. Trading back at this massive neckline. So overall, under the scenes, you have a lot of stuff still breaking down. You have the dip buyers like yesterday coming in at key support with Broadcom. But this can't even get out of its own way. You have a hard time what EU is thinking anymore with what specifically? I don't think they were thinking that Iran was going to get attacked. All right. I shall talk to everyone next week. Now the fly's gone and the live stream's over. What's up with that? Hope everyone has a wonderful spring. We're officially starting spring. I know Daniel talked about the equinox earlier. It's officially the first day of spring tomorrow. I already feel like we're baking in summer here, but everybody else, I hope you have a wonderful start to your spring. Well, I bask in the heat, and I shall talk to everyone next week. Bye for now.